Notley's point with that sort of statement, calling it a shock absorber, is that her argument was, and she sort of painted herself as the opposite of Brian Jean, the Wild Rose leader, saying that at a time when the economy is already shedding jobs, when people are already struggling, the budget needs to be the shock absorber. The budget needs to be able to provide some stimulus, really hinting pretty strongly at the fact that there's going to be some major infrastructure investments. And we know that obviously the government has tapped David Dodge, the former Bank of Canada governor, to commission a report sort of helping the government figure out its capital plan priorities, which is completed now. We should be hearing about what is in that report pretty soon once the budget is released, as you say, after the federal election, after the legislative session opens on the 26th of October. But certainly her point is that she wants to be able to provide people with jobs, provide people with something to turn to, rather than, as she says, laying off public sector workers, as she says the Wild Rose would do.
Point. We're waiting for the budget, and of course there's a lot of pressure right now on the government to get that budget coming out, and they are delaying it till after the federal election. I've mentioned this before. You go back to 1971 when the PCs won. Lougheed was sworn in September. They didn't bring down their budget until March of 1972. People, of course, have forgotten that, and the pressure is on Notley to bring down her budget, but they are delaying it. I've been told this will not be a major shift from the previous budget. It's going to be more spending on infrastructure, absolutely. But it's going to be more tinkering as opposed to a brand new, huge NDP budget. We'll see that next March when they actually have the budget at the correct time in March. So you're thinking, on the one hand, if it's going to be a stand-pat budget in many ways, and I was told it's going to be like that, then where is it? Well, they're holding it off until after the federal election, of course. It's going to be a $6.5 billion deficit, we think. That's from Joe Ceci. So we have been seeing the hints about more spending, and the fact they brought in David Dodge, the former governor of the Bank of Canada, is an indication as well. You call it a striptease. It's a good analogy because
he called it a burlesque.
It's a burlesque.
You made it a little bit more vivid, actually, Graham.
There you go. See where my mind is this morning.
It's Friday.
Okay, how about the Dance of a Thousand Veils?
Yeah, I like that.
There we go. Yeah, it's a bit more PG. David Dodge has been writing for the last year or so about the time to spend on infrastructure is now. If you got low interest rates, you're in a recession, you spend the money now, you can get low interest rates, and also the fact you're not competing with the private sector for labor and material. So yes, they're going to go big on infrastructure. And of course, there's a good and bad to that, and that is, of course, people will be happy getting new skills built, but you're going to have the opposition all over them in terms of the size of the deficit. And that's going to be a real problem for them, not this year, but moving forward.
But it's interesting, if Trudeau succeeds in changing the national narrative about deficits, which, post-Preston Manning deficits were, bad, even though Harper ran plenty of them, it may give, actually, Notley more wiggle room. If you change the cultural acceptance of the idea of running deficits, it may, ironically, Trudeau may give her a little more room to maneuver. But this is all really contingent on the price of oil. The price of oil stays low for the next 4 years. They're hooped. And if the price of oil rebounds to $100 by the time they go back to the polls in 4 years, then they're not hooped. That's how that goes. And there's nothing that Rachel Notley or Brian Jean or anyone in Alberta can do about any of that.